Hi, this is a presentation video on how the AcePos system meets the e-invoicing requirements. AcePos system is a system to cater for consumers, which means that e-invoice is not compulsory for every single invoice, but customers can request for it. And when customers request for it, the AcePos system should be able to provide the e-invoice. Now, at the end of every month, the company would have to submit a consolidated invoice, which is an invoice of all sales minus those already submitted individually as requested by customers into a single invoice and submit to the income tax server, the consolidated invoice. So this AcePos system already have this feature to provide the consolidated invoice as well. Okay, once the system is upgraded, let's go into the system. Once it's upgraded, now the first thing to do is to enter your setup into the setup. These are the things that you have to do. Additional setup, enter system setup. You have to fill up these information regarding e-invoice, your company name, your tax number, your business registration number. If you have SST, what's your SST number? If you are in the tourism trade, they give you a tax number, you need to fill it up. What is the MISC? That means which category of industry do you belong to? Now you can search from the LHDN website. What is the industry, different industry codes? Who is the contact email, your address, your postcode, your city, your state. Now all these has to be specifically to pull down because they are very specific. These are codes supplied by the LHDN, so you have to follow this. And this one also, which country, we default for Malaysia for you. Actually, when you pull it down, you'll find the MYS represent Malaysia. Then your contact number and your URL. Now this is a URL, this is fixed. When people who request e-invoice from you and they are not your VIP customers, which means that you don't have their tax number and their personal details, which is needed to submit for e-invoice, this is our website where we have developed for you to allow the customers to go in and key in their information. So this address will remain the same. We have defaulted to this address for you. This is hosted by us, this particular website. Now this is LHDN's actual website. Now you can see default we put it as pre-production. Pre-production means it's for testing purposes. Now the actual one would be this one, https myinvoice.hasil.gov.my. This will be the actual one. So in your case, you should be setting this particular one. And then your client ID and secret code, these are special codes that is used for submission. So we will help you how to register for this particular codes. You have to register onto the LHDN website for e-invoice before you can get this type of codes inside here. Now these are the main things that you have to key in the moment the system has been upgraded. Now the next step is if you are having your customers who are VIP regular, that means your regular customers, and they will always ask for e-invoice, then you have to key in their personal tax details into the VIP side. So this is done under maintenance of VIP, account maintenance, for example. Let's say this one, let's say for example Ashad. Okay, now the usual details are here, which are already present. The next thing, you go to page 2, you can see the e-invoice details that is needed is inside here. So you need to key in all these particular e-invoice details. Okay, for the VIP customers, if for those customers who regularly ask you for e-invoice, now for of course for those they don't ask you e-invoice, you don't need to key in. But if you key this in, then what happens is that when you have a VIP account and you issue a bill to the VIP, the system will auto pick up this information and actually submit the e-invoice immediately so that you can print an e-invoice straight away for your customer. So this is only for VIP customers. That means you have an account created already. So ask them for all this. What is their tax number, personal tax number, whether they're using passport, ROC or whatever, and then their IC numbers, if you're using IC for example. Now for NRIC, if they are not a company, if they are IC or one of these other than ROC, right, their tax number, if supposing they don't have tax for example, it can be blank. You can leave this as a blank. That is acceptable. But if it is an ROC, that means it is a registered company, you need to have the company's tax number. Then the address. Now, although in the front page you already have the address, but for purposes of e-invoice, you would have to type in their address here again, because things like postcode, you can type any postcode, your city, but for state, again, you must be a pop-up. This is a compulsory field required by LHDN, so you have to follow. And the country also, same, is a pop-up, but we already defaulted for Malaysia for you lah. Okay, and then the contact phone, and very important, the email address, because the invoice sometimes will be emailed to them. So you need to actually save this for all the VIPs that are. So you can start by asking all the VIP for their tax information first, for those who always ask for invoice. For those who don't ask for invoice, no need. Then you save it up. Now the second thing you have to do is, once the invoice is upgraded, is that you go to all the stock there, under stock, maintain stock items, you need to put in a class, the e-invoice class. This is required by income tax department. For example, I choose one item, let's say this item. You have to put in the class, what kind of product class, and it's very specific. There's a pop-up provided by income tax. You have to select one of these things. That means, what is it, the product? Now there is also a general code which is called others. If you put it as a blank, it doesn't have anything, our system will default it to others, which is 022. But if it's very specific, choose the one that is correct. For example, these are goods on consignment, gym membership, insurance, whatever. These are codes supplied by income tax. So if you do not know what your product should fall under, you can use class 22. So you have to do this for all your product. That means you have to set up all these products, and then you save up all the information. Okay, for every particular product, you have to save up. You choose this class and then you save up. So you have to do this exercise for all the products that you are selling. So next we go to post operation. This is where you do post operation. All these, the way it runs is the same as previous operation. There's no difference, but we have built in the e-invoice features inside here. So for example, let's say somebody walks in and this is a VIP. For example, it's a VIP and you have to key in the VIP. Now if this VIP already have all their tax details inside there, if they ask for e-invoice, become very easy. So let's say we scan, as usual, we scan the barcodes of what you sell and then go for payment. For VIP customers, e-invoice is printed immediately. Customer can scan this code and the customer can see the details of the e-invoice that has been submitted as verified by LHDN. Now this is for VIP, all right? Now what happens if this is not VIP? For example, it's not a VIP and somebody walks in. This is what salesman is selling. This one is on because we have say Sunny Abdullah is selling. What is the product you're selling? Say someone bought this and bought 5 of say 011.05 product. Okay, and then go for payment. Pay 100 by cash. Pay 100 say cash. Okay, now this is invoice number 12, and this person say, hey, I would like to have an invoice. So what happened is that this is not a VIP, which means that you don't have the details of this particular person, but he requests for invoice. So you can do this. Again, you go to pop-up. Okay, number 50, request for invoice. Select the invoice number. You know it's 12, right? Just now, right? Then you enter. Now what happened in this case, this person, you give them reprint this, they would have to scan this to enter their e-invoice details. That means we don't have their details. So you have to ask them, give them this receipt, scan this, you will go to our website, and from there they will ask the questions of what are the details that they need to key in. So this is what they would have to do for those who are not your VIP customers, which means you don't have their tax details and yet they request for e-invoice. So customer take this receipt, scan the QR code, and then it brings them to your site. You can see the invoice number 12 is there, and they have to start keying in all the details, all the correct details of NRIC, what is their NRIC number, okay, their tax numbers, the name, everything that is needed for the submission. Now, once the customer has keyed in all the personal information, of course, our system will auto submit the invoice on their behalf. Once you find that the website has already have the information. So if they come back to your shop, you can actually reprint the e-invoice for them, or they can download that e-invoice from the same QR code that was given to them when they scan it to go up and key in their information. They can actually download directly from there. It's a PDF file, or they can come to the same shop. If they come into your shop and ask you for a PDF file, you can actually go to pop-up, and then you can use 16 print e-invoice, and you select the invoice number if they have key in their information. Say for example it was say number 12, and enter. If it's not available, that means not yet submitted, or they have not keyed in their full details, it will come out e-invoice not available yet. So let's try to print one invoice which has already been created as an e-invoice. So you will be able to print the e-invoice with their QR code. Again, if they come to your shop, if all the submission is successful. Now, as I have explained earlier, for all the individual invoices, the customers have a right to ask for e-invoice. And based on what you've just seen, you can actually issue e-invoice for those who request for it. And for those who goes onto the website and key in their tax number and so on, the information required, submission will be done on behalf of e-invoice. Now, the balance of those invoices that were not submitted for e-invoice, once a month you need to submit something called a consolidated invoice. In other words, if this month you have got 1,000 invoices, as I explained earlier, and say 5 people have asked for e-invoice, the other balance of 995 invoices, you need to consolidate them into one single invoice. So this is the option that is called, which will automatically generate the e-invoice for you. They will ask you which month. It always goes back to the previous month, because before the 7th of the next month, you are supposed to submit your consolidated invoice. So you all have to do is just to select the month, and then click a start, and the system will generate the consolidated invoice for you automatically. Now you will know in the system, you will minus off, you will not include those invoices has been submitted as individual e-invoice for your customers when they request for it. The balance of non-requested will be consolidated into invoice and submitted to the income tax server automatically. This is what this option is for. Now in the system, there will be also a new report called the e-invoice submission. So this is for you to counter check in case some invoices during submission fail or pass, or whatever the reason why it failed, it is all in this report. So all the submission will be inside here. You just choose which month, and the system will be able to print the report for you. It will show you see, for example, on what day, which location, if you have multiple outlets, which location, what is the invoice number, when was the date and time requested, submitted, was it successfully validated. If it's successful, you'll come up validated. If it's failed, it'll tell you why. The reason, for example, in this case, invoice number 8, it says no internet or invalid setting at that point. Then later on, it got validated at what time. Okay, for invoice 9, same, for example, at that time there was no internet, or some setting is wrong, then later on it was validated. Those are successfully submitted and validated, you can see the date and time. And then those who are pending submission due to missing information is called pending submission. So all the reasons will be summarized here in this report. So this is for you to counter check in case there are some invoices that couldn't be submitted. So you need to know the reason why. This is what this invoice is for you to do your checking.